All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dennis Kolar. I am part of the Parallels team, and I represent what we call our service provider program. So if you're in the business of building monthly recurring revenue streams, if you're maybe coming from a reseller or a VAR type background, and you're looking for new ways or ways to create monthly revenue or monthly recurring revenue, MRR, as we'll discuss, you've come to the right place. That's what we're here to discuss. So today, what we will discuss is the program itself and the benefits to you as a service provider. So this is more of a business conversation, if you will. What I won't do today is get into any level of technical preview of the product, either of the management console or of the clients. If you, at the end of this, or if you have interest in doing so, let me know or let us know. I'll give you all the contact information at the end of this, and we'll create a one-on-one session for you. We prefer to do it that way because we know use cases are different with every organization. So we try to cater the technical presentation to where you're coming from, whether you're coming from a VMware or Citrix type of background, or if you're utilizing RDS, or you're coming from some other solution set. We just want to make sure that we hit the key points of discussion for you, and the best way to do that is to cater it. Those generally take about an hour, and we're pretty flexible in terms of getting those scheduled and getting you up and running. So with that, I probably should have just moved to the second slide here, which is the agenda. So here's what I will cover today. I'll give you an overview of Parallels because I think many of you, as I'm aware and know from working with partners in the past, everybody knows who Parallels is. Yet, oftentimes, they think we're just our Parallels desktop product. But we're quite a bit more than that. So who are we? This is a little bit about where Parallels is. I mean, we are a global organization. We do have quite a bit of penetration into the Fortune 500. From a business to consumer level, about a 7 million user base globally. And within the B2B community, which is what we're discussing, we're about 50,000 plus in terms of B2B relationships. So what does that look like for us? It's this. Parallels, we started with desktop for Mac. So if you're aware of who we are, you probably saw this instance of us. Parallels Desktop for Mac, which is a product that allows you to virtualize an instance of Windows on the Mac operating system. So that's where we started 15 years ago, and we continue to evolve that. So as Apple has moved away from the Intel chipset to the M1 chipset, their proprietary set, we've been right in lockstep with Apple developing solutions for that new chipset. So you can get Parallels Desktop today for Intel and M1 based solution sets. We've also done quite a bit of work with Chromebook or Chrome OS, more importantly. So we have put Parallels down to that level as well. So as Chromebooks have proliferated, particularly in the COVID era, we have a solution set to run Windows on a Chromebook or Chrome OS. A little unknown product for us is Parallels Access, which is also part of Remote Application Server. It's part of the license, but it is a real simple way if you have what I call a need for a poor man's VDI, meaning you have a stranded computer that's proprietary or purposefully built for, say, financial data or for CAD/CAM type of scenarios, and you need access to it. That's what remote access is for. Or even if you're just using it for your personal use, and you want to access your PC from home, you can do so through Access. But it is part of the license with the product that we're here to talk about, which is Remote Application Server. So that's in the middle here. And this is basically an all-in-one solution that'll deliver published applications, desktops, VDI, remote access. That's a whole gamut of RAS. And then lastly, and certainly not least, we also have another product that bolts into, if you're an SCCM administrator or have customers that manage a small amount of Macs in a very large Windows environment, we have a plugin module that plugs right into SCCM to enable you to manage your Mac devices through a single console. So there's a lot of benefit for administrators there, because you can ensure the updates and integrity and security of your Mac devices through a single pane of glass. And then on the periphery, one of the other products that we have, which is often bundled in with our desktop products, is the toolbox for Windows and Mac. And I use this every day. So it's as simple as creating quick icons or keystrokes for things like screen captures, because we do a lot of screen capturing and sharing, to printing. It just has it's a basic toolbox for how you manage and keep your machine clean and efficient, and also make your workflow efficient for things, like I said, for screen captures and printings, etc. So that's it. I mean, that's who we are. So we have, again, a lot of people know us from the desktop, but we have a myriad of other products and solutions that we sell to the enterprise as well to the consumer market. But what we're here to talk about today is really our parallel service provider program. And in large part, that is remote application server. So we're selling this program as a wholesale program, priced program, targeted specifically at anybody who wants to create desktop as a service, or published apps, or solution sets of remote access as a service. And really, we are, these premises based on boosting margins, helping you create higher value services for upsell, and also finding ways and developing secure access to information and data. And more often than not, we're displacing VPNs along the way with the solution set. Just some trends of what we're seeing in the marketplace. From a perspective of 4 and 10, as we look at here, there are a lot of plans in the COVID era to come up with remote access solutions. And that can range from just publishing a few applications to creating some simple virtualized desktops for, say, shift workers. It could be creating full-blown VDI solutions, meaning dedicated virtual machines per user. And you can just see ticked right to the left, 79% of, and again, this is from ESG Global and a survey that they did, but many of the organizations that they surveyed are looking at alternative methods to delivering desktops and compute power to their users, because they believe virtualizing it can be far more secure, because you don't have devices floating around there in cars and in areas where they can be hacked or stolen. Again, it's just a multi-cloud solution, which we're finding that many folks find it very easy to deploy, which equates to being very successful at their first try in terms of deploying it. And then, as we've learned with our partners, you might have a customer that it makes sense for. You start doing that and you deploy it with that particular customer, and then the next thing you know, your sales teams or your operations teams begin to find other applications for other customers, or in fact finding new customers because you have this solution that you can deploy and monetize. So the goals right? And benefits, as we see it for a service are these, right? You're increasing your productivity while you're improving your service deliverables. You're making applications and compute very accessible. You're leveraging cloud technologies, either in a hybrid environment, which is what we find more than anything. But if you want to go all Azure and AWS, we fit that solution. If you want to do something on a private data center, we can do that as well. If you want to do something in between because the customer has premise equipment and CapEx already spent, they want to leverage that with some form of integration, we can do that as well. So in a hybrid approach. And more often than not, we do a lot more in the hybrid space than we do one or the other in terms of all cloud or on-prem. So we can walk in just about any environment that you have in a combination of environments. So for us, again, when we built this program, we wanted to make sure that we covered off some key tenets. And for us, it has to be valuable. It has to be valuable to our partner community, which we believe we have built. We want to make it simple. So it's not just simple in terms of the user interfaces for the management console or for the clients that are using it, but simple to also administer, intuitive, also to understand how the licensing works. It's got to be simple. It needs to be secure. So we kind of touched a little bit upon that, but the technology we're using and the protocols we're deployed with are very staid. So like I said, and oftentimes we can displace some other physical infrastructures that are already in place vis-a-vis VPNs in the process of deploying RAS. And that makes it cost effective because, again, you're not spending a lot of time training, or certifying. It's a relatively intuitive user interfaces across the board, and the modeling is, from a licensing perspective, is simple and cost effective. So all of that makes for a lower total cost of ownership and raises the cost effectiveness. But oftentimes we find these things that are considered inhibitors. And again, you're new for this slide deck. So I looked at this last night as I was practicing and running through these slides. I guess we could call these hoops. We're kind of going under and over hoops when you think of inhibitors. But you can kind of read the slide. But the point is that oftentimes when it comes to deploying these solutions, they can be costly. And if you've spent any time with brand X, you know that they're costly because they're complex. Complexity means more training. It means more time trying to configure it and build it. It also means more complexity in terms of debugging it or finding issues and concerns within a configuration or something's not deployed correctly. The other I would focus in on this slide is the further two in the middle. We talk about existing applications and time for rewriting software. So when we think of service providers, one of our larger components of our program and partners are independent software vendors. There are a lot of folks out there that have developed on the Windows platform for years. You might even be supporting some customers who have them, right? They go back to release 2.8 or 2008 of Windows Server, and those applications just don't go away, right? They love them. They're purposefully built, and they're necessary. But are they going to spend time, effort, and energy rewriting them to a web interface or to a mobile interface? Probably not. We have a solution set within RAS that enables that, so that if you need to extend the longevity of a particular Windows application, you can do so eloquently through RAS. If you need to extend it into an environment that is more mobile, meaning I can see it on my iOS device, I can manage it through a tablet or an Android device, or I just want access through it from a browser. we have the ability to do so. The mobility piece is key. Again, we'll get a little bit more into detail of that because we provide more functionality. So you can take some of the desktop features that you're used to with some of these older applications, like keystrokes or components, and we can put them into actual hand gestures that folks can use from a remote client. So those have been very big upsales for us in terms of functionality to the end user. And so if you look at the top of this slide, what we're really talking about here is solutions driven by managed services. And we use the concept of virtual client computing. So we're an enabler for that. So if you folks are in the business of providing those IT services, how do you do it? And what tools do you have to do so? And what we're providing you is a solution that allows you access to from any device, inclusive of a browser under HTML5. It's secure and it's eloquent and simple, which reduces your cost of support, training, and overall cost. So how do we do that, right? And you step through this slide again. It is, again, we believe we're extending a lot of value to your customers through this by simplifying it, making really a simple, repeatable purchases month in and month out, particularly with the monthly recurring revenue concepts. We talked about the user experiences, the UIs being very simple and eloquent, but it's also easy to deploy, but feature rich, meaning we do have a multi-tenant solution. So if you're supporting multiple customers on a common architecture, we have built our solution to enable you to deliver it that way. We have automation tools, auto scaling and provisioning. Again, as I mentioned, we're hybrid, so a multi-cloud solution or a multi-platform solution, meaning that it's hyper-converged ready, and we're also hypervisor agnostic. So it makes a very rich set of tools in a very simple to use package. That equates to driving more monthly recurring revenue for you. How you price this, again, oftentimes is dollars of per user or per user who has the feature set. So you might have an uplift on a feature set enabling this, and that's a monthly recurring charge based on subscription. So it makes it real simple to sell and think of it more of an operational expense model versus a capital expense model. You're pitching the value of the service. And that just creates a very win-win type of business model because you pay as you go. If you don't consume our licenses, you don't pay for them. So if your customers, if you sell 100 users with that feature set for that customer on a month or an annual subscription, and they only use 50 a month, you're only getting billed for 50. So again, there's all kinds of ways to build margin into the service, and we have a lot of experience with other partners and what we built for them and with them that we're happy to share. So for us, like I mentioned, we really think of, we have two components to this program. It is those service providers, right? Anybody that's in the CSP space, the cloud service provider space, or the managed service provider space, MSP space, kind of fits in this left column. And then in the center, I mentioned ISVs, those that need to extend the life of a solution set or come up with another way to provide a mobile solution to their existing base, have been very valuable for ISVs. Also, if you're a traditional reseller or value-added reseller today, you're not left out either. We have a separate licensing program, which is predicated on annual subscription, and we can certainly help you there. We work with distributors to provide pricing to you. So if you have a customer that's got their standalone premise and they want to purchase 25 licenses, you want to deploy them, and it's going to sit on their premise, that's the reseller program. So again, 2 licensing models for us. We only sell with and through partners, so it doesn't matter if you're a channel partner or from the resale side or part of our service provider program. We have a licensing program for you. And oftentimes a service provider partner could also be a reseller partner, and a reseller partner could be a service provider. So oftentimes we have partners that are in both programs, and they're only doing so to meet the demands and the needs of their customers. So, to me, this was a challenge. It's a transitional shift for me because I always think of our solution as a 3-legged stool. But from our standpoint of how we service and provide value to you as a service provider, it's really around support, making the solution cost effective and easy to use. We call that our framework to succeed. Now, I don't know why we put the pause button in here, but just pause for a moment, and here's the 3 components, or the 3 legs of the stool. It's a high value solution, right? It's easy to manage, easy to maintain. And when you look at the price of the cost of the licenses, coupled with the amount of time, effort, and energy it takes to manage the solution and train on the solution and get your customers up to speed, it's very minimal. And then what the 3rd element to that is, so if you have high value, solution, eloquence, cost effectiveness, the 3rd piece is just to wrap it up with a great support, and we provide 24/7 support. So if you're just getting started with us, it is a pay-as-you-go model. We deployed our first customer and they have 25 users. Do I get the same? Do I have support? Yes, you do. So whether you're using the solution, you're just starting to deploy it, you're doing a proof of concept, you have access to our support 24/7. So again, high value, easy to use, manage and maintain. So for us, this is why we feel this whole solution set is catered towards service providers, because you're probably doing one or all of the things up on top here. One of the things we haven't discussed is reporting and billing. We have models, or I should say engines for that within the solution set. So you can get very accurate reporting. We also enable you to see that reporting through the partner portal. So if you're working with an accounting team and they need to see utilization to generate billing, that they can have access to it as well. So you don't just have the console itself, but you have other means of accessing the same information, particularly when it comes to utilization and cost. We also provide a high availability load balancing solution within the product. It's more of a mid-tier solution. It's a round robin component, but it is part of the license. So we find that that's very functional for a lot of smaller solution sets and smaller customers to be able to deploy that. But if you have an F5 or a larger one, or we can certainly use that. We integrate well. Again, it gets back to being agnostic. So from a load balancing perspective, we have a lot of flexibility there as well. But again, for you and your business, we're simple, we're flexible. As I mentioned, feature rich. We haven't talked about multi-factor authentication, but we do have it. We also have built components for SAML, for single sign-on. So depending on the version and flavor of SAML you've deployed, we have a solution set. Again, we take a very generic approach to that, but we drilled into some very specific SAML providers. Suffice it to say, if you have a radius-based SAML solution, we have abilities to make that function and work. So again, trying to be as agnostic as possible when plugging into technologies that you may have already have investments in. And also flexibility with REST and PowerShell API. So if you have, this is very helpful for many of our ISVs to be able to write or to hook into particular calls and routines that they have in their solution set. So it is simple but very robust is the best way I would describe our solution. And then you wrap that all up with, it just comes to create a very unbeatable total cost of ownership for this solution. And this leads us to this whole conversation. It doesn't matter where you or where your customer is on this continuum. Like I said, more than anything, we see folks right here at the hybrid deployment model, more than anything. But you can move from one end of the spectrum to the other, or have customers and solutions in all four of them. Again, we are in both AWS and Azure cloud, so we're part of those solutions. We're not only in the marketplaces, but we're also vetted solutions, so you can plug in and procure our solutions straight from there with your license key. But we also do a lot in terms of the hyperconverged space. So if you've deployed a Nutanix or Scale type of environments, we play very well in those spaces as well. So if you already have a common infrastructure built in your own data centers, we have a solution set that ties right into anything you're doing in hyperconvergence as well. And so again, very simple. You can deliver immediate value and have a clear path into future technologies, no matter where you are on this continuum. So for us with RAS, key benefits, again, I'll just tick through them here. Again, I think you'll see that we have a very high quality, simple to use user experience, whether you're managing the solution or whether you're consuming the solution from a client or clientless access. The way that it's architected provides a lot of enhanced security capabilities. It gives you agility, right? It doesn't matter where your customer's at and or how your customer wants to purchase either. So again, think that reseller model versus the service provider model. Which license fits, right? We have a solution for you. Again, it's easy to maintain and configure, and that just leads to reducing that total cost of ownership. So if your eyes aren't rolling in the back of your head after I've said that 5 times to you, just wait, I'll say it 6 times. So again, enabling remote working. Again, this is a big component that we've actually had a lot of benefit of the current events. Now, it's not been fun for anybody, but it has really helped us, from a standpoint of establishing our brand, solidifying that brand, is also is refining how and what areas for future development the product needs and will have. So again, across the board, mobility has been huge. Just have the ability to publish applications or create virtual desktops. The beauty with us is that you do that all through a single license. So we're not asking you to do a super duper data center version or a particular license for publishing applications and then another license for publishing desktops. It's all inclusive of a single license. Here's some examples, right? Use cases where folks are deploying it and doing so as service providers and certainly creating more value and more revenue streams for their business. Suffice it to say, a lot of it is predicated around remote access and ease of use solutions, while also making it secure, because it doesn't necessarily have to be on a company-owned device. We also do quite a bit in virtual desktops and VDI. So again, more use cases and value here. You guys can all read this at your leisure. These slides will be made available to you at the end of the presentation, so we'll send out a slide deck with this along with the recording, and then you'll have all of this information for posterity's sake. I mentioned a few things with regards to the user experience and said it many times, but some of the other key features that we do have is bidirectional audio. There's a quick keypad feature, which is very fast and very helpful for automating particular keystrokes. We see this in field service technicians who need simple keystrokes to do repetitive components or repetitive processes on a tablet, for example. There's some compression and things that we've done to accelerate file retrieval. Again, I mentioned native gestures. So that's where you're using the functionalities of gestures with your hands and your fingers to emulate mouse and keystroke movements. So this is where a demo comes in very handy. But we find this again for anybody that's deploying services or technicians, if you will, or people that are in the field or need to work remotely and transition from an office, say a desktop, to a remote device on a tablet or a touchscreen. Native gestures have been a real key time saver for them and to make it eloquent and transportable. Drag and drop we haven't touched on. Again, this is another good one for the demos, but you can drag things into your desktop and you can drag them out of your desktop remotely as well. So if you've done drag and drop in the past or had that challenge with where files reside or should reside and should not reside, this feature comes in very handy. And let's not forget printing and scanning. So the other component here is, I think, one of our claims to fame way back when. So a little history too. So Parallels acquired remote access or remote application server about 5 years ago. And it was a little company out of Texas before that under the brand name of 2X. So this was a product that we did acquire. In the process of making that acquisition, we've quadrupled the number of developers on the solution set and added a ton of features. So it's evolved since we have acquired it. But one of the claims to fame with 2X was printing and scanning, and we've continued to evolve that. So if you have thermal printers, which we do have some airline customers who have thermal printers at, say, a kiosk or at a gate, we've integrated those into. We've had many other production, meaning manufacturing types of printers that are more purposefully built that we needed to enable as well. So we continue to enhance the printing and scanning engine within this solution set, and it's been for many of our partners a lifesaver in terms of how printer and printer management is done when deploying remote access and solutions for people. We talked about, or I have mentioned security multiple times. This is a whole other conversation. It depends on where you're at in terms of your architecture for security, but suffice it to say, these are kind of the key benefits, right? You're consolidating and centralizing this. You can monitor, restrict policies, if you will, for access, but down by device as well as user. The encryption protocols, again, are very staid and vetted. So if you're doing things in compliance or government or HIPAA, from a healthcare perspective, they're tried and true. And then again, if you have multi-factor or SAML types of single sign-on solution sets, we have you covered there. And this just brings to agility, right, and business readiness, and gives you the ability to deploy quickly to scale quickly across any platform. And that gives you a lot of flexibility and continuity and high availability for your customers. And it really is a one-stop solution. As I mentioned, the way we license this, it's an all-in-one license. So it doesn't matter. The only thing we're measuring is concurrent users. It doesn't matter what component or area of the license they're using. We're just looking at the user itself. All right, and so again, I've talked about this. This is best seen through the eyes of a demo, but we are easy to deploy and we're easy to consume as well. So what I mean by easy to consume is it's intuitive. So if you pick up the client or you pick up the mobile app client, if you log in through a web browser, the solution set is very, very intuitive from the client side. Conversely, this is where the demo comes in. Do reach out to us for the demo, because you can see the management console, how eloquently and intuitively it's designed. It's designed to step you from the start, so think general, and drill down all the way to the specific, depending on how complex and how detailed your environment or environments need to be. And all of this leads to this. It's a lower cost of ownership. It's a single license model. We've tried like hell to get as much of the complexity out of it, while the same token providing you all the functionality, right? So that robustness that you need to support thousands of users, the flexibility to deploy different users or different spectrums of users or different customers within a common environment, we've done as well. So we really focused a lot of time, effort, and energy to make this as simple to use and as feature-rich as possible. And because of that, we haven't really put any expensive add-ons, right? You don't have to have other licenses or other components beyond what we're providing. You may have to re-architect things depending on how you're deploying VDI, meaning a true full-blown VDI deployment is a little bit more complex architecturally and costly architecturally than just putting up virtual desktops and publishing apps. But you have the flexibility of doing all three under one license. So again, it lowers your costs. Core capabilities. This is an eye chart. But if you saw where we started with the product in 2X, and now you see you have all of these different components from, you name it, application and VDI to multi-tenant and load balancing to automation around pre-launch and Windows client management, the ability to deploy in a fully public solution or a private solution or a hybrid solution, centralizing the management and auto provisioning of it, SAML, two-factor authentication, granular permissions and group policy as well. We leverage FX logics and for profile containers quite a bit. Again, be remiss not to mention printing and scanning. But again, a lot of ways to deploy this and to do so with auto scaling and automation. So I think you'll find us to be a feature-rich solution set that's purposefully built, and would love to have you take a look at us and go deeper with a demo. But let's talk through licensing and the cost, right? How effective, and whether or not it is cost effective based on everything that I've been telling you. So if you're familiar with the Microsoft SPLA licensing program, which is service, if you're not, it's called Service Provider Licensing Agreement. Fast forward today, it's predicated around CSP or Cloud Service Provider Program. The concept of this is that we provide a single license key. It's all based on consumption. So you can deploy that key across a multitude of different environments. So in this example, You can see we have deployments in Azure. We have an on-client deployment or on-prem deployment for a client at AWS, maybe a private data center of Equinix, or even your own hosting facilities. But each one of those has a particular utilization throughout the month. So the way that we do this is we measure utilization at the beginning of the month and every day during the month through the end of the month. Then we look at that sum of all of those days, right? We look across all of those days, and the day of the month that has the highest combined utilization is what we bill for. So in this example, that came on a particular day in July, and it had 1,430 concurrent users total. So across 4 different architectures or 5 different architected sites, there was a total of 1,430 CCUs on a particular day. At that quantity, 1,430 is what we bill against in your table. So there's a rate table times 1430, and that's the bill that we send to you. So we're billing you. That is your cost, right? So that's another clear delineation here. Is this is a wholesale program, so you're getting wholesale pricing out of the gate. This is primarily sold directly. We do have distributors, but for the most part, we sell these solutions to you directly, and we can set you up from a billing perspective on terms or with a credit card, whatever makes sense for you and how you want to establish doing business with us. But again, it's monthly, so we measure at the beginning of the month all the way every day through the end of the month, and it's all automatic. That's the other key component here is that this doesn't require you, as Microsoft has done in the past, for you to keep track and report up back to us. That doesn't happen. With Parallels, we have a small licensing server that takes a tally at the end of the day, and it sends through a secure socket layer SSL link back to our licensing servers your consumption for that day. And then to that end, you can see that consumption, as we do have a billing portal. You can also see the consumption daily through the management console. So this is where I was saying before, we have a multitude of different ways of consuming information about your utilization. Now, this comes in very handily when you have an accounting department that needs to break things out. One other component that we have not spoken to about licensing is you can also sub-license your production key. So if you have a customer or customers and you want to create a separate licensing key for them, and let me give you some examples. Let's say you have 2 customers. Customer 1, we'll call them customer A. Customer A has 200 users, and they know they have a pool of 500 potential, but at any given time, we're going to procure for 200 users. So you can create a sub-license key specifically for customer A for 200 users. And when they get to the 201st user, because people love it, they will not be able to access the solution. They can, or you can, customize an error message to them to who to contact within the organization to get authorization as well. Which brings up another point and a value to our solution, and that is we do enable this for you to white label. So if you want to brand this as your solution or as your customer's solution, you can do so. And that also means that you can customize the messages for how to get help, right? In this instance, if they needed access, whether internally or externally back to you. So we give you a lot of control. We would love you to advertise it as Parallels, but we also know that's not the world that we live in with our partners, because it's our partners. This is all about you, and it's all about your customers. So again, how the look and feel of this, can be your brand or your customer's brand or a hybrid in terms of what they see on the splash screens, but also in terms of how you message and interact with them when they're having an issue with accessing the solution, or they hit a problem, like a printer or, God forbid, a bug. But we are a technology company, and sometimes we do have bugs. So, pricing model. This is a slide you've all been waiting for. So, again, before you look to the pricing, also understand this includes application publishing. It's VDI and RDS integration, remote desktop services integrations in Microsoft vernacular. It includes the remote access, remote PC solution. Why that's important, and why, I'll give you an example. So within the COVID world, one of the key advantages that educational, particularly higher ed institutions, have jumped on the RAS bandwagon is because of computer labs. Many of them have purposefully built computer labs, and without students being able to come to campus, those were basically stranded assets, and quite honestly, they couldn't conduct a lot of coursework and examinations without access to them. So I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with higher educational IT departments deploying RAS for this very solution, because we give you the ability to deploy it at scale. So if you have, in their instance, 500 users across 3 labs that need access to lab machines, you can create their profiles across that. And you can give them all the rights and or lack of rights as necessary for them to gain access to the solutions. And you can also provide a simple reporting mechanism back to them, and this is what the universities love, because they could see who was utilizing the solutions when and where their bottlenecks were. So there was probably a lot of 2 a.m. bottlenecks for people wanting to for college students trying to access the computer labs. But needless to say, there's a real world example that comes with this. It includes the HTML5, so it's a gateway solution set, the load balancer, and the reporting. And it starts at $5. So whether, again, you're using 1 user or 1,000 users, you can see what your monthly pricing is based on total concurrent usage. And again, it's a pay-as-you-go model. So if you start out and you're not utilizing it because you're selling a proof of concept to your customer, and then they come on board and they say, well, we'll do this, but I'm going to try it with these 10 users. You can send it out to those 10 users, and then the next month it comes in at, of those 10, 5 used it, and then it takes off from there. So we look at this with you as a crawl, walk, and run strategy. So we don't ask for prepayments up front or commitments for hundreds or thousands of licenses up front. We allow you to take on a strategy that fits for your business, and you charge for this, and you make money when it's being consumed. And so that means you're not paying us for anything less than what you are actually using. Okay, so I kind of already went through that component of it. And then the third leg of the stool, right? We just want to put this and wrap this around, a great support model. So I talked about technical support, but if you join us, these are kind of the requirements for the program, right? We want you to fill out. There's a little application on our website, and there'll be a link on at the end of this for that. And secondly, current membership within SPLA or CSP program. And what we're looking for there is not so much the membership as we are that you're aware of how these programs work, because there are Microsoft components of licensing for RD user CALs, for example, client access licenses, that are also a component of the cost. We don't sell Microsoft licenses, so we don't quote them. What we're quoting is our consumption, but then any of our consumption that you have will more than likely require some form of user client access license from Microsoft. So again, we want you to understand how that works so there's no surprises in terms of how you architect this and build cost and profitability into the solution you're delivering to your customers. We ask that you achieve and maintain 2 technical certifications. So we have a multitude of certification courses happening throughout the month. We have a basic, which gets you up and running, which is like a best practices of how to deploy RAS. And then we have an advanced solution set as well. So if you're deploying MFA, SAML, multi-tenancy, the things that require a little bit more sophistication and thought work going into the architecture and design of it, we have the advanced certifications. And then lastly, because we sell with and through you, we want a profile about who you are and the customers you serve, or the geographies that you're serving, the verticals you're serving. Why? Because we're a campaign machine from a marketing perspective. And as we generate new opportunities, we want to place those again, because we only sell with and through our partners with you. So help us help you by having up-to-date partner profiles so we can direct marketing opportunities and leads to you and to your team. So the benefits of this is that you not only do you get the 7x24 technical support, but you get a dedicated channel account manager. You get this scalable solution that's easy to use. Again, it's pay as you go. The training doesn't cost you anything. And then once we get you up and running, we also provide you an NFR key as well, not for resale key. So you can leverage that key to build demos for your customers, for your sales teams, as well as to use it as a proof point and sandbox for development. So lastly, next steps. So if there is interest in this or you want to see a demo, reach out to us at psp@parallels.com and we'll get you routed to the particular rep covering your area. And if you want to apply directly, you can just go to parallels.com at partners/PSP. So I know we're bumping up against the hour. And I don't have any questions. So I must have done a very thorough job with this new deck. I want to thank you all for your time and your attention. So be on the lookout for a follow-up email from us with regards to the slide deck and the recording, as well as next steps. I do appreciate all your time and attention. I'm going to give you 3 minutes back in your day. Thank you so much. And look forward to speaking with you all soon. Thank you.